Hey guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dustin.
And we are Working Class Nerds. We are bringing you a Commander deck tech, our first Commander deck tech for this channel over
Ayula, Queen Among Bears.
So, what made you want to build this deck, Dustin?
Why, anybody
to make our lives miserable in this playgroup.
Hold on.
I have to give him credit. It's pretty good, but it's very infuriating.
Well, also those spicy memes. Everybody makes bear decks for the spicy memes.
Of course. This one is no different.
Yes.
So tell me about Ayula, Dustin.
It's just it's always been mentioned as a kind of low power deck, but I wanted to make it as powerful as possible. So this is what I came up with. It's also very annoying because I played against it one time and I was like, oh, this is what everybody's complaining about because it eats your commander.
Yeah, literally. Oh, I cast my commander. Oh, I fight it and it dies every time. Admittedly, when you were first building the deck, I'm like, oh, okay, it's the bear commander. I'm not too worried. And then we played it and you honed it to perfection. And now we're here, which is why we're going to discuss it for you guys. So let's check out some of the basic bears of this deck. These are just the vanilla 2/2s, the typical bears from Magic the Gathering.
Special abilities or anything.
Yeah, just plain old 2/2s. But they work with this deck and can be pretty threatening. We've got grizzly bears, runeclaw bear, balduvian bears, forest bear, bear cub, alpine grizzly. It is a 4/2 for 3, but that's it. And universal automaton.
It's just a one-drop changeling.
But it's a bear.
Comes in handy. If you wanted, you could replace Universal Automaton with Metallic Mimic, because that would give all your bears, +1/+1 counters. But I just like having, spend 1 mana to cast a bear. I like that.
Alright, and some of the more gifted bears of the deck.
Yeah, okay, so starting off we got Goreclaw. Creature spells you cast with 4 or power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. Whenever Goreclaw, Terra, Qualsesma attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until the end of the turn.
Oh my goodness.
The second ability, is the best one. Because the first one, not a lot of your bears have more than 4 power, so not as useful.
But +1/+1 and trample is pretty nice.
Yes, that is pretty nice.
Ayula's very angry husband.
And then, what came out in Modern Horizons, we got Mother Bear, which this is really good. It's a 2/2 for 2. But when it's in the graveyard, you can pay 5 or 3 and 2 green, exile Mother Bear from your graveyard, create 2/2 green bear creature tokens.
Oh my!
Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. But it's just a really handy 2 bears whenever you need it.
So a double bear trigger off of Ayula, so you give her 2 counters and have her fight something. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Especially for extracting value of something that's in the graveyard. So let's check out some of these other bears. River Bear, Pale Bears. River Bear is 4 mana for a 3/3. Pale Bears is 3 mana for a 2/2. They both have Island Walk. So
that's important for killing those blue players first, because you're mono green.
Yeah, bring it, son. Striped Bears for 4 mana. You get a 2/2 bear that lets you draw a card. Ashcoat Bear for 2 mana. You get a 2/2 bear with Flash, which is actually pretty good in a pinch. So say you have an opponent's turn, you've got 2 open mana. They want to try and swing with their commander or pop off some ability, you can, BAM! Eat that sucker.
And then we got Dragon Scarred Bear. You can pay 1 and a green and regenerate Dragon Scarred Bear. He's pretty cool. Activates his ability only if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater. Which is
bears, whatever.
Yeah, it's not a problem. You're powering up Ayula. Then we got Spectral Bears. If Spectral Bears is declared as an attacker and defending player controls no black cards, it does not untap dirt. So you would use Spectral Bears either to block or to attack people who control black permanents. Then we got Werebear. This guy's really handy. You can tap it to add green to your mana pool, and it has Threshold. Werebear gets +3/+3 as long as you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard. And it only costs 2. So
he's someone who got bit by a bear and then turned into a bear? So since he can tap for green mana, he's basically a Llanowar elf that got bit by a werebear and turned into this.
Oh. Yeah, I guess
Just some lore for you. I honestly don't know, but it sounds way cooler.
He exercises his right to bear arms.
Oh my goodness.
The flavor text.
Making all that mana got him jacked. What else we got?
Then we got the last two, Uvenwald Bear. When Uvenwald Bear enters the battlefield, if a creature died this turn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature.
Well, that's pretty nice. So if you eat someone with Ayula, play Uvenwald Bear, he's going to come in with 2 +1/+1 counters. Well, how about that?
Yeah, or just on target creature. So
Very nice.
you put it on Ayula.
Oh.
Vivian's Grizzly. Her ability is you can pay 3 and then a green. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, put it on the bottom of your library. If you don't need land, you know, this actually comes in handy if you're really looking for like a monster or planeswalker or something.
So a good way to kind of filter your draws and make sure you're drawing into some bears.
Yep.
How awful.
One, go.
So, in true green fashion, we're going to talk about ramp. Green is notorious for ramp and has some of the best in the entire game, so naturally we want to ramp into more bears. Let's check out some of these. Crop Rotation, it's an instant for 1 green mana. At the time you play Crop Rotation, you have to sacrifice a land, but you get to search your library for a land card and put that land into play. It does not come in tapped.
That card is really handy.
I'm sure that was
some of our non-basic lands.
intentional with this one, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll shuffle afterwards. Cultivate a green mana ramp staple for 3 mana. Search your library for up to 2 basics, reveal them, put 1 onto the battlefield and 1 into your hand, and then shuffle. Pretty useful for mana fixing, but since we're playing mono green, it doesn't matter. Nissa's Pilgrimage for 3. Search your library for up to 2 basic forests, reveal those, put 1 onto the battlefield tapped, the rest into your hand. And you can also cast it with Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, search your library for up to 3 basic forests instead of 2. And Sky Shroud Claim for 4 mana. Search your library for up to 2 forests, put them into play, and then shuffle. They do not come in tapped, by the way, so again, a great way to ramp and get some extra value out of that card.
And here's another one like those. Explosive Vegetation. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them into play tapped. Not as good as Sky Shroud Claim, but it's still pretty good. We got Yavimaya Elder. When he dies, you may search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. But you can also pay 2 and sacrifice him, so you get that ability plus drawing a card.
Bear Sympathizer. Terrible.
Yeah. And then we got Shaman of the Forgotten Ways. You can tap him and add 2 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool to green. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. But I really put him in there because I really like his second ability. You could now this is a late game ability. You can pay 11 or you can pay 9 and 2 green and then tap him, and each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls, which is it's a big if somebody gains like a whole bunch of life or something like that, it would just be really come in handy to because like mono green you don't really have a whole lot to deal with.
Right, not too great against a lot of token decks, but against some decks that are either Voltron style or just rely on a few large creatures to win, this can put you in a position to either swing in for some unblocked damage and just win the game out of nowhere, which he has before. It's been miserable.
And then we got our last 2 mana rampers. The first one's a Planeswalker. It's Nissa, who shakes the world. Whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional forest.
2 forests for 1. Pretty good. We have fallen victim to this many times. Go ahead and read her abilities, Dustin.
Yeah,
just read through this nonsense.
You can +1 her loyalty and put 3 +1/+1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature land you control. Untap it. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste. That's still a land. I've done this so many times. I've tapped the forest and then untapped it. Yeah, that's 4 mana right there.
Okay. So go ahead and read Nissa's ultimate, Dustin.
Her
just so our
ultimate,
viewers know
-8.
what's going on there.
You get an emblem with lands you control have indestructible, and then search your library for any number of forest cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library.
Yeah, so with that first ability, if you're making a bunch of 3/3 lands with Vigilance to Haste enough times, and then you give them all indestructible, you have an army of trees coming to kill someone.
Yep.
Yeah, speaking from experience, it's
really
pretty
need
awful, actually.
It was pretty great for me.
Yeah, no. Yeah, just on to the next one. What's our last ramp card here?
Then we got Cage Sun, which is great in monocolored decks. It's
Absolutely.
like You need this in a monocolored deck.
I would say almost a staple if you're willing to spend a little money. I don't think it's too terribly expensive,
I
but
think it's like $10 as of this.
the amount of value you're going to get out of it is worth every penny.
Yeah, it's creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+1. You got to choose the color, green, obviously, and whenever a land's ability causes you to add 1 or more mana of the chosen color, add an additional mana of that color.
So that is 2 cards in a row where your mana is tapping and adding an additional mana every time. So potentially your forest can tap and add up to 3 mana off of a single card. So ramp is pretty solid in this build. So if you are playing against decks with a built-in board wipe, such as Child of Alara, your bears are going to die, so we need to have answers for our bears going to the graveyard. Some easy options for that: the well-known Eternal Witness. For 3 mana, when Eternal Witness comes into play, you may return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So if you have enough bears, you need a good enchantment or sorcery you play, maybe some artifact removal, you can go get that. Genesis. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Genesis is in your graveyard, you may pay 2 and a green. If you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, go fetch your bear from your graveyard. Tamir Sabertooth. For 1 and a green, you may return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Tamir Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. Not a bear, but it is a pretty solid blocker in a pinch. Road of Return. For 2 green, you can choose 1. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, or put your commander into your hand from the command zone. And you can also pay 2 more to Entwine. Choose both if you pay the Entwine cost. So 4 total mana to get a card back from the graveyard and get your commander from the command zone into your hand.
Because your bear commander, it's probably going to be killed a lot, and I've spent 14, 16 mana just getting it out of the command zone, so...
Even if your forest do tap for triple mana, her dying a lot can get quite expensive, so this is quite a handy card. Creeping Renaissance, one of my personal favorites. For 3 and 2 green, choose a permanent type. Return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. So for example, you play this card, you choose creatures. You've got 10 bears in your graveyard, well, now they're all back in your hand. Not to mention, you can also pay 5 and 2 green and cast it from your graveyard for its flashback cost, and then exile it. So you can get 2 uses out of this card to recur a lot of value from your graveyard. Quite a solid card all around.
And here's another card, artifact called Soul Foundry. When Soul Foundry enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your hand. So exile a bear, and then you pay X, and then tap it, create a token that's a copy of the exiled card. X is the converted mana cost of that card, so it's just an infinite, like if you exile a 2/2 bear from your hand, it's just infinite bears every turn.
So you're just going to be pumping out more bear tokens and abusing Ayula.
Yes, and then we got...
Oh my god.
Conjurer's Closet. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control and return that card to the battlefield under your control. So just exile a bear, return it back, then Ayula gets to fight something or get more counters. It's really handy. Erratic Portal, you can pay 1 and tap this, return target creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. You're going to be targeting your own creatures, so you don't really have to worry about, you know, people paying 1. I mean, you could use it for that. It's been used for that before.
For example, if they dump all their mana to cast their commander from the command zone, and you can just send it back to their hand, that's pretty cruel, but quite useful in a pinch.
They forgot this was out here. Yeah, it's really handy. And then we got Cloudstone Curio. This one's really good. Whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play under your control, you may return another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. So you keep summoning bears, and then the bear another bear goes back to your hand. You summon it, another bear goes back to your hand. Ayula just keeps getting pumped up, and she gets really powerful off this card. It's
very
really
angry
amazing.
bear. She will eat everything.
And lastly, if you can afford it, Sword of Light and Shadow. It's just another way to get bears out of your graveyard. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from white and from black. This might be useful if you're playing a white and black deck. Then Ayula becomes unblockable. It's really good. Whenever a quick creature deals combat damage to a player, you gain 3 life, and you may return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So a bear.
+2/+2, protection from white and black, creature recursion, gain life, a pretty solid card that I will probably never be able to buy. But good nonetheless. Way to go, Dustin.
Yeah.
So we are playing green, so board wipes are fairly limited, but by some chance, Dustin found some ways to fit some into this deck. Squall Line, you can pay X and 2 green. Squall Line deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. So in the event you're playing a deck with flying, this is pretty useful, but also a great way to just close the game out of nowhere if someone's life is really low.
The flying creatures will be a problem for bears, because they can't fly. If you can't eat them, it's a really good
They can
alternative.
swoop in and kill you.
Yeah.
But that's why you've got Squall Line and Hurricane. Pretty much the exact same. However, it is at sorcery speed and not instant speed. You pay X and 1 green. Deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. Again, a great way to take out flyers or potentially wipe out some players who had a low life total. Quite awful.
And an interesting thing about those 2 cards is that you can use Shaman of the Forgotten Ways ability to reduce everybody's life down to whatever, and then you can at least, maybe you can take the win off of those cards, or maybe you can at least tie it. That's why I put these cards and Shaman of Forgotten Ways in this deck. I just wanted to go over that with you real quick.
So just another potential win con kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, or at least a non-lose con.
Oh, yeah, well, true.
But anyways, the other board wipes, we have Wave of Vitriol. Each player sacrifices all artifacts, enchantments, and non-basic lands he or she controls. For each land sacrificed this way, its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped. Then each player who searched his or her library this way shovels it. So if you're just if it's just there's enchantments and artifacts that are just not allowing you to do anything, cast Wave of Vitriol, just wipe the field clean, get more basic forests, and you're good to go.
That's a pretty interesting card because the primary strength of this deck comes from all your bears, not so much your artifacts and enchantments, though we have some. So this will kind of really slow down decks that rely, such as an enchantment deck that I run, and kind of put you in a good position with all your creatures you have out. So pretty good option. Okay.
And here is another one, Aligned Hedron Network. When Aligned Hedron Network enters the battlefield, exile all creatures with power 5 or greater until Aligned Hedron Network leaves the battlefield. Now, the point of this deck is to pump up Ayula and swing for commander damage. So you're not going to have a lot of creatures with power 5 or greater, except for Ayula. So if there's just a ton of creatures that are about to kill you on the field, just pop in Aligned Hedron Network. And if anybody manages to get rid of Aligned Hedron Network, you can pop in Eternal Witness and get it back and just do it again. It's really handy.
Ooh, and it says it exiles creatures, doesn't destroy them. Okay.
Yeah,
Pretty
until
nifty.
it leaves the battlefield. So once if they do destroy Aligned Hedron Network, all their monsters will come back, but
Pretty good in a pinch, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if they have creatures big enough to where you have to use it, better than just getting destroyed. So,
yep.
Good option here. A good kind of board wipe that will fit into green, since green doesn't have a whole lot of options in that area.
And then lastly, if just crap hits the fan, you're going to want Perilous Vault. You pay 5 and then tap this, exile Perilous Vault, and exile all non-land permanents.
This is the big red button that you put in front of everyone and say, "Come at me, bro."
Yeah.
That will pretty much deny anyone from attacking you. And then if you have enough mana open, if they try and destroy it, well, just set it off, which is usually what happens. So some options for targeted removal. We have Crozen Grip, a pretty well-known card. For 3 mana at instant speed, you can destroy target artifact or enchantment. This card also has Split Second, which means as long as it is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that are not mana abilities. So
No counterspell.
pretty much just close it out a blue from having any sort of retaliation there. Vivian Reed, for 3 and 2 green, you get a 5 what is that? 5 loyalty planeswalker. For +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So a great way to kind of fetch for some land or a bear, which you're going to want tons of bears in your hand. That's your ammo that really sets the deck off, so quite a useful card. Her -3, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So sort of a multi-tool here. You have a big flying creature that an opponent casts. You know, it's going to swing in and do some real damage to you. You can kill it. We've got a pretty powerful enchantment or artifact that's really sort of slowing down your game plan or accelerating theirs. You take it out with this card. And her -8, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2, have vigilance, trample, and indestructible.
Your opponents will never let you activate that, but it would be really nice.
In the event they do, and they shouldn't, I don't know how you could lose the game unless they exile your whole board.
That is just a great all-around planeswalker.
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, fantastic. And then these last 2 targeted removal, we have Scour from Existence. You pay 7, but you exile target permanent. So that's any permanent. So anything that's giving you
trouble,
a lot of trouble, you want to get it out of here.
So it may seem kind of steep for 7 mana, but you play it instantly and get rid of anything.
We have plenty of mana ramp, mana doublers. You can do it. I've used it. I've used it almost every time I've gotten it. And then lastly, we got Beast Within. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. So that's another one that is just really great.
Yeah, although your opponent is going to get the 3/3 beast creature token, this does destroy target permanent. So, if you have a particular creature like an Eldrazi, you could turn him into a 3/3 beast, which is much more manageable at instant speed for just 3 mana. So,
and for the indestructible ones, use Scour from Existence, exiles it.
Gone.
Yeah.
So we have 2 cards in this build that are going to allow you to play your creatures at flash speed, meaning you can cast them for your hand like they were instants. So it's quite nice. An opponent plays a creature, you flash in a bear, Ayula fights, the problem is dealt with before it can really become a problem. Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, for 3 mana you get a 4 loyalty planeswalker. And her passive ability, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash. Again, pretty useful. Her +1 until your next turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. Not bad. You can give a creature you control, mostly for the reach ability, because if they have flyers, again, the bears aren't going to be too good at blocking flyers, but this can kind of, help you survive 1 extra turn. And then her -2, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Exile 1 face down and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it's a creature card. So look at the top 3. If it's a bear, put it in exile, just kind of your kind of hidden ally over there that no one really knows about. And of course, you can flash it in.
The main thing is the flash, though. That's probably the best.
Yeah, being able to fight on someone else's turn.
Yes, it's so good. They cast their commander, you flash in a bear,
and you eat it.
It's great.
They think they're safe until it's this bear's next turn, but no, it dies right there.
Yeah.
And another card with something very similar, Yiva, Nature's Herald, for 2 and 2 green. She herself has flash. She's a 4/4 elf shaman, and you may cast a green creature spells as though they had flash. So all of your creatures in this deck are flashing in. So quite nice. Again, the bear ability is becoming more and more oppressive with these abilities.
And then nextly, we got the tutors. We got the searchers for the deck. We got Worldly Tutor up first. Pay 1 green, search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, then put that card on top of it. Really great. We got Green Sun Zenith. You pay X and a green, search your library for a green creature card with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, shuffle Green Sun Zenith back into the owner's library so you can keep reusing that one. These are really good to get Eternal Witness, to get Vigor. Really great cards. You need these in your deck, I think.
Yeah, definitely not the most budget-friendly options, but as far as really making bears go off, they're pretty highly recommended. So if we're playing all these bears and we have our commander out, she's going to be fighting, we want to have ways to protect them. For 2 mana, you can play Swiftfoot Boots. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste, and you can equip it for 1 mana. So it's pretty good commander staple. You know, give your commander protection, give it haste. Pretty nice for preventing target removal.
I didn't opt for Lightning Greaves because Lightning Greaves gives your it gives it Shroud. The point of it is to put it on Ayula, and if Ayula has Shroud, it can't get counters. It can't target itself to give it itself counters. So
right, hexproof prevents being targeted from your opponents, where Shroud is just any sort of targeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Heroic Intervention, a fantastic card all around. For 2 mana, 1 and a green, you can play an instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. All permanents, so creatures, enchantments, artifacts, even lands for some decks that like to make lives miserable, such as those that run Armageddon. This can keep you on the battlefield, keep you in the game, so quite a fantastic option in this build.
And then next we got Asceticism. You pay 3 and 2 green for an enchantment where creatures you control can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control, and then you can pay 1 and a green and regenerate target creature. It's a fantastic card.
So it gives all your creatures hexproof.
Yes.
And you can regenerate
your creatures. Them. Yes, it's a great card.
Absolutely. 5 mana for hexproof is
insane.
Is nice, but the added regenerate is a pretty nice bonus.
Gives all your creatures hexproof, and then you can regenerate target creature. It's so good. And then lastly, we have Tangle. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Oh, by the way, it costs 1 and a green. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Attacking creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap steps. It's an instant. So if you're playing a token deck and they're just like, okay, 50 creatures coming at you, then you play this real quick, just like no thank you. You don't take any damage and they don't untap during the next untap step. It's great. So if you have Eternal Witness, like it's even better because you can just keep using it.
So this is a great way to just kind of shut down some strategies that rely on swinging them for tons of damage.
Yeah.
And then leaves them wide open for a counterattack. These next 4 cards are pretty fantastic cards in their own right. They can really be put into any deck, so they are not too bear specific. Prowler's Helm. For 2 mana, you're getting an artifact. Equipped creature can't be blocked except by walls, and you can equip it for 2. So it's sort of a pseudo unblockable. You know, in the event you're playing against a commander deck that's running walls, well,
you can just eat the walls. You can just eat the walls.
just eat the wall with the bear. Your bear may seem ill, like it ate some shrooms and it's just going to eat this entire wall, but in the event they're not playing walls, which I don't know many people who do, you basically have an unblockable bear who can swing in for commander damage, so it's a potential win con.
I opted for Prowler's Helm instead of
Whisper Silk Cloak?
Crap. No, not Whisper Silk Cloak, because that gives Shroud. But it's called, Trailblazer's Boots. I opted for Prowler's Helm instead of Trailblazer's Boots because Trailblazer's Boots, it's basically the same thing, except it's non-basic land walk. But why I opted for Prowler's Helm is because we play against people who run Blood Moon, and everything becomes mountains.
Uh-oh, they're all basic lands now.
Yeah, and it just makes Trailblazer's Boots useless, so...
Okay, so this helps you kind of find a way around relying too much on the opponent playing non-basics.
Yeah.
It's much easier to play against non-walls than hoping they play a non-basic. A green card, which is fantastic. I'm actually putting it in some of my green decks now.
Why not put it in all of them? I mean,
I'd say
it's that great.
If you're running the color green, you're going to want to put this card in there just for its sheer ability. Vigor. For 3 and 3 green, you get a 6/6 elemental incarnation with trample. But the awesome part, if damage will be dealt to a creature you control other than Vigor, prevent the damage. It gets better. Put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each 1 damage prevented this way. When Vigor is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library.
It doesn't even die. It goes back into the library.
So it recurs itself, it prevents damage, and it makes your creatures stronger after that damage is prevented. Now, granted, if they have trample, they are going to hit you for some damage, but the creature won't die. It's going to come back even stronger, so it will then be able to block and, save you from any damage following. Fantastic card. If you play green, you need to put this in your deck. Just absolutely. And it's not too abrasive on the budget either. It's reasonably priced for as good as it is, so we highly suggest it.
Alright, and these next two are just really, really good. You need these in your bear deck. The first one is Panharmonicon. It costs 4. It's an artifact. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. You summon a bear, Ayula's effect goes off twice. Really good. And then the next one is, if you can afford it,
I can't, but fantastic cards
Doubling
nonetheless.
season. It should
Doubling season!
It should be like every deck.
If you run counters, if you run tokens, either one of those, you're going to want this card. It's just, that's why it's so expensive, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's better. It's better than Hardened Scales and Parallel Lives combined. It's that good.
Hence the price point. So tell us what it does.
It costs 4 and a green. It's an enchantment. If an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. If an effect would put one or more counters on a permanent you control, it puts twice that many of those counters on that permanent instead. Super good. If you have these both on the field, which I've had before, you're gonna win. You're gonna win.
It pretty much makes it so difficult to actually come back that it wins the game on its own.
Yeah, Grisly Fate. It's a sorcery. It costs 3 and 2 green. Put two 2/2 green bear creature tokens into play, but it has threshold. So if you have 7 more cards in the graveyard, instead put 4 2/2 green bear creature tokens into play, which is already insane. So if you summon 4 bears, if you have Panharmonicon or Doubling Season out on the field, it makes Ayula's effect goes off so many times. And this sorcery, it also has flashback. It's insane. It's so good.
So for some context, he has actually set it off where he summoned 4 bears with Doubling Season, so he got 8 bears, and he had Panharmonicon, so Ayula got 16 triggers. Yeah, he won the game. He won the game, and simply put, that was it. There's no coming back after such a play, which you'll be really surprised to notice happens quite often in this deck, which it doesn't seem like it with such a goofy tribe, just bears, but it's pretty impressive to see such a combination go off. And last but not least, we're going to go over our card draw. Having tons of bears and awesome creatures and spells is nice, but it's only as good if you can get to them to actually play them. Some of our options here. Rishkar's Expertise for 4 and 2 green. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control.
Ayula.
So, if Ayula's just casually a 6/6 or an 8/8, you're drawing plenty of cards. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So, you draw a bunch of cards, then you get to cast a card for free if it costs 5 or less. So, more than likely another bear, or some removal, more card draw. Fantastic card. Slate of Ancestry for 4 mana, you get an artifact. You can pay 4 and tap it. Discard your hand. Draw a card for each creature you control. Obviously, you're going to want to only play this if you have a lot of creatures on the battlefield.
And a little bit of cards in your hand, or... Yeah.
Certainly. And then, for 2 mana, you're going to have plenty of bears, so late in the game, this can be a good way to dig for an answer or a win con. Guardian Project for 4 mana. Whenever a non-token creature, bears, enters the battlefield under your control, if it does not have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard,
goes off.
A singleton format, so pretty much every non-token creature you play, you're going to draw a card. So, pretty fantastic. Something I actually didn't really consider until he explained it to me in Commander, because before playing Commander I played a lot of Standard, and this card was like, well, okay, I'm going to be playing sets of 4, so it's not as great, but in Commander, pretty helpful card draw.
That's amazing.
Colossal Majesty for 2 and a green. You get an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card.
Which is almost always true.
So if you play Ayula and play 1 bear, you're going to be drawing a card off of this.
And then next we got Inspiring Call. This can also go in the protection section, but it costs 2 and 1 green. It's an instant. Draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So if you don't just give all the counters to Ayula, if you give counters to other bears too, yeah, you get decent card draw. Those creatures gain indestructible till the end of the turn. That's really good right there.
So you get some card draw, and you can protect your creatures with counters on them. So keeps people from coming after Ayula too strong, or keeps her on the battlefield anyway.
Yes, and then this next one, it's an expensive card. You can replace it with another card draw card, but we got Sylvan
He
Library.
spared no expense for these bears.
No,
We'll have you know.
I wanted to make it so good.
He wanted to show everyone that bears were a legitimate tribe, and this is what we got. This just manifestation of green hatred. Continue. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, we got Sylvan Library. It costs 1 and a green. You may draw 2 extra cards during your draw phase. If you do so, put 2 of the cards drawn this way back on top of your library in any order, or pay 4 life per card not replaced. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. So, you know, if you draw the 2 extra cards, you will take 8 damage, but that's 3 cards at the start of your turn. That's amazing.
In green, lets you filter your draws in green, something you're not really expecting to do. And then, if you want the cards, take a couple extra damage. Keep them in your hand.
Yeah.
Good way to dig for answers.
It's
Find
so
more
good.
bears.
And then we got Life Crafter's Bestiary. It costs 3. It's an artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. That's already really good. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay 1 green. If you do draw a card, you're going to be casting a bunch of bears. You can draw a lot of cards off of this. It's a really handy artifact to have. And then lastly, this is a really good one, Zendikar Resurgent. You pay 5 and 2 green, so it costs a lot, but it's an enchantment. And whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. So it's another mana doubler. And because you're going to be recurring bears all the time, you want all the mana in the world to be able to cast, bears and keep doing it over and over again. And whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card, which is really handy for when you keep casting those bears off of, Cloudstone Kuryu, or just, Timir Sabertooth, or just all those cards that you keep to you get to keep casting bears.
So you get mana ramp, you get card draw.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic card. One that every time you've played has caused quite a bit of grief for those on the receiving end. Mm-hmm. So I understand, why you'd want it in here.
And mana doublers, it's so good in this deck because your bear is going to get killed a lot. You're just going to have to accept that. But you can keep with these mana doublers. You can just keep casting the bear. I've casted it from the command zone, 14, 16 mana, and I've still managed to summon some bears after that. I thought about putting there's 2 other mana doublers. I think there's Vorinclex, which is. It's a Praetor. It cost
I think 5 and 2 green or 5 and 3 green, something like that.
It's up there.
Fairly expensive to cast, but fantastic card.
But it does. I didn't put it in this deck because it's too aggressive. Like at the beginning, you're gonna be just starting out. You're gonna be trying to kill people's commanders, but or making deals with them like, hey, I won't kill your commander if you don't come at me, but if you summon Vorinclex, you're pretty much guaranteed to have all your opponents come at you. So that's why I didn't put it in the deck, even though it's a mana doubler. It's really good. And next is the lands. It's kind of a low land count with 32 lands total, but because you have so many cards that search through and get basic forests, that and you want to, instead of drawing a land, you want to you want to draw bear as much as you can. I think it was appropriate. And we got 11 non-basic lands and 21 basic forests.
Okay.
And then starting off,
Reliquary Tower. Not really a green specific card, but fantastic if you know you're going to be drawing a lot of cards.
yeah, Creeping Renaissance, Risk Cards Expertise. This will help you out with keeping all those cards in your hand.
Keep
just
your
saving
having
them.
discard. Yeah. You simply put, you have no maximum hand size, and you can tap to add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. Homeward Path, you can tap it to add 1 colorless, or you can tap it and each player gains control of all creatures he or she owns.
Yes, this is really good in a mono green deck when you don't have a lot to deal with your creatures being taken. It's a very good, almost necessary land to have in this deck, especially Homeward Path. That and the next card, Sanctum of Eternity.
So you can tap and add a colorless, or you can tap 2 and tap Sanctum of Eternity, return target commander you own from the battlefield to your hand. So another way to get
Another way to get
back.
it back for if it gets taken, because if Ayula does get taken, you have no hope of winning.
The bears are going extinct, they are going to kill you, and that is it.
Yeah, Ayula is really the center point of this deck. It really makes it go off, and without her, I don't think you can win.
Such an optimistic outlook, Dustin. That's awesome.
why I put those 2 lands in there and crop rotation to help you search for it.
Go get it in the pinch. Admittedly, I think Ayula was taken 1 time, and he did die finally.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the 5th game we played, so we found a way to sometimes win. Oran Reef, the Vastwood, a green land, enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add a forest to your mana pool, or you can tap it, put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that entered the battlefield this turn. So if you're able to put out multiple bears in a turn, turns those 2/2s into 3/3s, so kind of nice. Yabimaya Hollow, you can tap it. It is a legendary land. You can tap it and add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. You can also tap a forest and tap it, regenerate target creature. So another way to keep your creatures alive.
Really good land, really expensive land.
Would you say absolutely necessary?
It's not absolutely necessary. You
quite
could
nice.
you could replace. It's just really nice to have. If you don't you don't have the money for this, which I completely understand, you can replace it with a basic forest.
Or Gaia's Cradle, a nice low-budget option.
Oh yeah.
No, one of the most expensive lands in the game. That's another card I'll probably never own. But that's okay.
I will. Yeah.
It's still fun anyway.
Me neither. And okay, so the other lands, we have Protection Tower. You can tap it for colorless mana, or you can tap 1 and until the end of the turn, your opponents and creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the targets of spells and abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. Really great for Ayula being able to target other creatures for fighting. I think that's necessary to be in here. Arcane Lighthouse, it's basically the same thing. It's just a little better, I think. You tap it for a colorless mana, or you can tap 1 and tap this until the end of the turn. Creatures your opponents control. Until the end of the turn, creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and shroud, and can't have hexproof or shroud. So these are really good lands to have.
Definite ways to fight any creature you want, especially those that might be quite pesky, that your opponent thinks, oh, it's got hexproof for shroud, I'm safe. No, the bear is going to eat you. She's going to find you and eat you. Okay, awesome choices.
And then we have Winding Canyons. You can tap it for a colorless mana, or you can tap 2 and it until the end of the turn. You may play creature cards whenever you can play instants, so it gives all your creatures flash. Really handy. Again, you can just flash in a bear, eat something really quick. It's great.
Awesome.
Then we got Karn's Bastion. You can tap it for colorless, or you can tap 4 and it and proliferate. So if you just have all this extra mana, sitting around and it's about to be your turn, oh, let me get rid of that really quick. Proliferate, my monsters.
So every creature or permanent you have that has a counter of some kind, including planeswalkers who have loyalty counters, you can put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent as well. So if your bears all have 1/1 counters, they can all get an extra +1/+1 counter. Or if an opponent's creature, which has actually This has come in handy. If you're playing against opponents' creatures that get -1/-1 counters, you give them an extra -1/-1 counter, so weaken them a little bit more.
Yeah, if someone happens to do that, yeah, it's pretty great. The next one, really good card, necessary card to have in your bear deck. It's called Rogue's Passage. You can tap it for a colorless, or you can tap 4 and it, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. So you can make Ayula unblockable, you can attack for commander damage, you can kill
Wipe
him,
someone out.
yeah, knock him out. It's a great card, must be in the Ayula deck, I think. It's great. And then the last land we got, the non-basic land we got, is Command Beacon. Honestly, this should be in like every commander deck. You're like, if you can afford this, it's so good. You tap it for 1 colorless mana, or you can tap it, sacrifice Command Beacon, put your commander into your hand from the command zone.
Wow.
So if it gets just really expensive, you can get Ayula back to the command zone, and Command Beacon goes to the graveyard. And if you have Eternal Witness,
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for future videos, and most importantly, leave us a comment and tell us what commander you would like to see us talk about in later videos. We have a lot of work to do, and we appreciate your support.